It's been a while. So yeah, I'm not sure how do I start this video properly. But here I am in front of the camera. And the last video was actually posted almost 10 months ago. So it's kind of interesting how I want to revisit this and by starting to do a vlog. But I figure out why not, right? So the purpose of this vlog is to really share with you guys how is it like to join a local tournament. And what's even more amazing is that this local tournament itself is actually going to be a championship event. So what do we get from this championship event? The top invites, or rather the top cards, actually get an invite to this whole qualifier. And of course the whole OBC card. Right, so it's pretty interesting and we shall see what's await for us.
So the first game that I actually got to play in this whole championship was actually against one of the tier 1 decks already. So that was unsurprising given that the stake of this tournament is to get into the area finals and of course playing for the OBC card. So in the first game we actually fought against the purple Up Knight Amiya, and Amiya is definitely a very strong deck because it does have a lot of resources, right? It plays around the remove area and of course it also gains a bunch of damage for no apparent reason. And I'm just bringing the humble Sukuna to this whole tournament. So was I actually prepared for this tournament? Honestly, not really. Because I was just really living the dream, believing that, my Sukuna will find his fingers in the whole 7 rounds. I believe the 7 round Swiss. Unfortunately, this first game humbled me real quick, right? So the gameplay was pretty generic. Honestly, if you ask me, it really just shows how vanilla the deck has already become. Look at my hand, I have 3 specials and it doesn't really feel good to use special at all. And I do have the fingers. I actually have to go for AP draw 1 and whatnot. And it's really not doing too much. I'm using final early into the game and then using a finger to draw. And going for the Sukuna rate already, I do have only 3 energy and then just going for that special. I think I hit into a very timely special here and it does actually got soaked up by the Nobara. Very interesting play by him, but of course I think he has another special in hand, and that really just shows how strong the new decks are, right? Sukuna is definitely being outclassed here, and this game is generally quite a train wreck, right, for the Sukuna because there isn't really much I can do. Right? Sukuna is actually just a very simple deck. A raid just gives you impact 1, drawing 2, discarding 1. And if we look at my hand real quick, it's really just a bunch of vanillas, Nobaras, special, double energies. And really that's about it. That's what I mean by vanilla, because all the cards only do one thing, and that's just playing the game. While other games, or rather other decks in this game right now, has like 2 to 3 abilities in one card, making them really far apart from what Sukuna really is. And of course, fast forward to this game, I actually do lose towards the end because the Sukuna really just out of gas pretty quick, and that's really pretty much it. And I do go into a X1 immediately after the first round. Now on my second round, I was pretty fortunate because I actually faced against One Punch Man. And it's actually the Tatsumaki and Fubuki sisters, which is a very interesting variant because actually I don't really see much people playing this variant, especially for One Punch Man. And the deck is actually pretty interesting as they actually function around playing events. And events per se are not always consistent. And to be honest, I actually won this game. There's a spoiler right there, because I actually just play around having UGs, and UGs is just fundamentally good, mainly because it reduces enemies' resources by when they raid and I bounce it back to their hand, they actually lose 1 card, and we actually can generate the offense gradually like that, and that's where actually he sort of lose gas from there. However, actually, now I think about it after reflecting about this game, he could have just picked up, or rather play the event searches that allows him to really search for more of the Fubuki and Tatsumaki sisters, because actually how this game actually ended up is that he actually lost resources, losing steam to be very honest, not able to generate enough of the sisters to actually go for the game, and we just outright win just mainly because I do see many of the UGs especially the Bounce UG and the Sukuna, so I have constant rates and constant resources, so I outright grind the game here. And that's pretty much it for the round 2. We now move along to round 3 and I'll be up against the Kamen Rider 01. Now Kamen Rider 01 is a very, I will say, like a better word, interesting deck, right? Because it really does do things very differently from other decks right here. It is a deck that really enables you to play towards the Kamen Rider Rising Hopper, which basically allows you to keep raiding in the front line into a final impact 1, and it does gain protection during this phase as well. So it's a very strong attacker, which opponent will not have a good chance to attack them or rather to defend against it, and let alone trigger against it. But however, having said the trigger, we do have a misplay in this game itself, given that I do actually, hit into a special or UG that really stops him from going further with his raid attacks. So that shouldn't be the case because of how the whole U01 decks really works. So that's pretty unfortunate, and I think he would have gotten this game right here. So the whole idea about 01 really is to play around the whole value town, or rather just swarm the board with all your 01s in the front line, and then eventually going for that ultimate swing. They do actually have Metal Cluster Hopper as well, which basically brings you back a 1 cost below 01 from the outside area or even from your hand. If you do play from your hand, you do draw 1. So the whole deck really is just about swarming and then going for the final 0 Rising Hopper attack. And that really pretty much sums up the whole deck. And honestly, after having said that, I think it's much more interesting than UG itself. And I have been catching this show as well, so I'm really glad I'm watching this show. It's really about AI, and it's actually quite relevant in today's era. So in this game, it's really pretty much spiraled back to the whole special and the UG proccing from the security. And other than that, the deck is pretty much quite vanilla, and I'm referring to the Sukuna here, right? So I'm maybe biased towards 01, but 01 does definitely have a much more interesting game plan as opposed to Sukuna. So really fast forward to this end game here, I really just happened to win mainly because of a UG as well as a special from the life, which really allows me to secure the win there. And that's very unfortunate for this player because if we were to get the ruling right, I would have basically lost here and then going for X2, and X2 is pretty much just the end game for this whole tournament. Now we do go to our final round, right? No spoilers right there, okay? So it's gonna be the final round of the Swiss because actually this is the last round that I'm going to be playing, mainly because I do go into my X2 here. So I'll be actually playing against the Sakamoto Days, Heisuke and Shin deck, and it actually topped recently in BCF Thailand as well. So it really shows how formidable the deck is. And honestly, it's my first time playing against it, and I was really amazed because of how the deck really works. And you can just now see I revealed my entire hand to my opponent. So because of Shin's ability, when upon raiding, they actually can look at your hand, and then you actually can put 1 card on top of the deck. And that really just locks you out of the whole game because you are going to be drawing into bricks, especially for a deck like UG and Sukuna. Every card really counts, and I do actually hit into a scenario whereby I do have 2 finals in hand, and he used the Shin ability to put that final back into the top of the deck. And we do know that whenever we go for the AP extra draw 1 and draw into another final, just really doesn't really do too much. It really just gives you a very stale game. And with the Heisuke, it does gain snipe while revealing the top of your security, or rather your life, sorry, and really helps them to really eliminate that process of getting luck sacked in a sense. So we do actually hit into a color trigger there, but that's really pretty much it because let's not forget, Sakamoto does have protection. And I'm just quickly doing a quick check here because we want to make sure that the effects are properly done, given I learned from the previous game. So really, the whole deck is pretty nuts, right? UG and Sukuna didn't stand a chance. And from that point on, I'm really just losing steam because of how Shin is able to make me brick intentionally. So really apologize in advance for this kind of angle for the video because it's really my first time trying to do this kind of POV shot. It's attached to my shirt, and sometimes when I bend down, the shirt or the camera bends down together, so I'm just really not focusing on the table, but instead it's going to be on my pants, right? So that's not intentional, and I really do hope that I can improve this kind of style of video moving forward. Now for the rest of the day, I'm just going to be spending my time recording the top 8 games, and if you guys haven't already checked them out, please do, because they took some time to edit as well. So yeah, that pretty much sums up the whole day for me.
So we finally concluded the whole tournament day. It has been a long day, right? It's about 7 hours since, and I would say it's pretty interesting because I get to witness how far UG is, alright, from the meta. You definitely have to play a deck with a lot more text, right? Because I feel like UG is a bit more on the vanilla end, while decks like Evangelion, everything seems to do something. Big draw power, be it, you know, whatever. I even got the privilege of fighting this Sakamoto days where the protection is super annoying. And Shin, looking at my hand, whew, that was some invasive method of playing, right? But yeah, so congratulations to the winners, of course, and I would want to say that I had fun, right? That was pretty much the idea of the whole tournament. It's always to be having fun. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll check you guys out in the future videos.